Tuesday night from 8 to 9 p.m. exclusively on ZYZ Radio 96.1 FM. It's the perfect way to spice up your midweek routine and get answers to all your burning questions. Whether you're looking for relationship advice or curious about the art of intimacy, Roma's got you covered. Pleasure Pulse, every Tuesday night from 8 to 9 p.m. Only on ZYZ Radio 96.1 FM. Don't miss out. Your sex education journey starts this Tuesday with Roma as your guide.
The attention is rising on ZIZ Competition Superstar 2025. 6 amazing voices remain in the competition. Ikwanje Bradley, Roma Richardson, Nikita Sage, Denicia Henry, Romicia Prentice, and Juanita Johnson. This week, it's an open round, no set genre, just pure talent and creativity, as each contestant performs a song that shows off their superstar power. But remember, only 5 will move on. 1 contestant will be going home on this week's show. Who will it be? Don't miss a single moment. Tune in Thursday at 8 in the evening on ZIZ Television, ZIZ Radio, and online at www.zizonline.com for all the music, emotion, and drama of ZIZ Competition Superstar 2025.
To another episode of Pleasure Pulse. I'm your host, Roma Richardson, and I'm so happy to have you join me tonight for another conversation, another topic surrounding sex and something else. As usual, before we get started and before we get deep in tonight's conversation, we'll take a break so you could let everybody know that Pleasure Pulse is live, and then we will come back and start talking. So stay tuned. Welcome back to Pleasure Pulse. I'm your host, Roma Richardson, and you're tuned into ZIZ 96.1 FM on ZIZ Radio, on ZIZ's Facebook and YouTube, streaming live, as well as streaming live on the website. You can access it there if you want. So I have with me a guest here, someone I've known for years, and it's interesting that this is the first time that we are sitting to talk about this, because I know what space I'm in, and I feel like, but timing is, perfect.
Yes.
So whenever something is supposed to happen, it happens. And we were talking about something else, and I was just like, by the way, would you come on a Pleasure Pulse? So here we are.
Yes.
So I have my guest here. Can you introduce yourself? You're first time to Pleasure Pulse.
All right. So good evening, everyone. My name is Miss Claudia Bradshaw, and I love classical music and anything vintage. And I love journaling and activities that foster self-development. And God makes up basically most of my space. And I am just glad to be here with you on Pleasure Pulse tonight.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for accepting my invitation so enthusiastically.
Yes.
So
For an introvert.
And you're an fun introvert.
Yes.
I mean, people might not believe that I'm also very introverted.
Okay,
So
I would not have believed that.
it take a lot out of me.
That shocked me.
I don't know. It's just something about hosting. Perhaps I consider myself, what do you call it, an ambivert?
Yes.
Somewhere
So it depends.
Yeah, it depends
right
on
in
the
between.
situation. In the right situation, in the right setting, in the right
No.
circumstances, with the right people,
Yes.
I can come out. You put me in
Yes.
front of a mic, I become a different person.
Yes.
After, I go home and I go in my little and I recover.
Yes.
But this,
for charging. To do it all over again.
but
But
next Tuesday. But still, these conversations that I find always really soul let's just say soul filling.
Yes.
They fill my soul, they
Yes.
energize me. I think they always remind me of why I
Yes.
agreed to do this, why I did it before years ago. So yeah, I'm always still happy to have these conversations, even if it takes me out of my
Your comfort
introversion.
zone.
Yes.
Yes.
So, Kasia, you are a teen, or you were a teen mom. You're not
That's
a
right.
teen anymore. You were a teen mom.
You don't have to let the whole I'm not a teen anymore. But
Sorry. Sorry. I mean, you can. I'm sure.
Carry on,
Yeah,
carry
okay.
on.
Okay, so how old were you when you found out you were pregnant? And how did telling your adults go?
Okay, well, I was 16 years old when I found out that I was pregnant. I was in fourth form at the time at the Washington Archibald High School, and I didn't have to tell my parents, at least one of my parents, because my mom is the one who took me to the gynecologist. And how she set it up, I did not know that I was going for that purpose until
Okay.
certain questions was being asked, and I naturally became nervous. And when the doctor did the examinations and everything like that, the results returned that you are pregnant. So naturally, you can imagine the emotional roller coaster that is happening right there between myself into the initial shock, and my mom at disappointment and everything, and my dad, who, even though he wasn't at in the office, he was on the outside. So when we got to the vehicle, well, before we got to the vehicle, I remember my mom telling me, you would tell, of course she didn't say it as calmly as I am speaking, but she said, you will tell your father. She's a Trini, so you could imagine. She said, you will tell your father. And that car ride home was the longest of my life. And when I told him, and I must say, praise God for his mercy, he was driving when I told him, so I didn't have to see his face directly, but I saw how he was looking, the side profile. And I would never forget the look of hurt, shock, and disappointment in particular by my dad, and how it made me feel, because I really looked up to my parents, looked up to my father, admired him, and the last thing I wanted to do was to hurt my parents and my dad in particular in that way. So it was a most solemn occasion, not just for my parents, but also for myself. Now, sorry, every time I tell it, I get a little emotional because I'm seeing it. And I know that my story, this situation is not unique. It is not singular, because I'm not the first teen mom, nor am I the last. However, just to give a brief backdrop as to my situation, I grew up in a very strict Christian home. So one where my parents, they were very much, and still to this day, very much active in church, and the roles that they, the roles that they held, even on their job in the community. And I believe before I had my daughter, who is here with us in the background for support, I remember that at the time I was pregnant, he was also an elder, one of the elders in the church, and he was contemplating stepping down from that position because of the teen pregnancy. I can't recall if he did so eventually or not. I know they are listening, so when I arrive home, they will let me know. But I know he was contemplating that, and it was at that particular moment it dawned on me that my actions didn't just affect me, it also impacted others around me. So separate and apart from holding my baby for the first time, which I'm sure we'll get into, that right there was awakened me to the consequences of my actions. And that was, yes, yes, that was a moment.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I mean, part of the reason, and I realized our introduction to the show was just chatting.
Yes.
We were just chatting it up,
Yes.
but not even related stuff, and we didn't even say what the topic.
Oh my gosh.
That's okay. That's for me to do in an intro to the conversation,
Yes.
which we missed. We were just like, so how about you?
Yes.
Blah blah blah, and then straight into the questions.
Yes.
Tonight we are talking about teen motherhood.
Yes.
Okay. So that said, and the conversation came up because we were actually talking about Project
Yes.
Viola,
Yes.
which you were a part of, and I know you have regarded that program very highly,
Yes.
spoken very highly
Yes.
about the program, and I've heard that secondhand, from your brother. So I know that was a huge part of your experience as a teen mother.
Yes.
Can you tell me, more broadly, including that, what the experience was like being a teen mom? And you talked about holding your baby for the first time,
Yes.
your big
Yes.
teen,
Yes.
teen
Holding
baby.
up for the first time and breastfeeding for the first time. It was, as you could imagine, naturally everything was new, odd and uncommon. But as for the experience on a whole, being a teen mom, it was definitely a journey, an unplanned experience, but definitely a journey. And it was one filled with turbulent times, but also one filled with many triumphs. And I give God praise because the outcome could have been much worse, to the point where my daughter and I could have died. But I'll get to that. But let me just say here that in the beginning, the experience felt like a walk of shame. And that you will never forget. And I no longer felt confident in myself. I felt a bit lost and out of place. And I don't think people, even those closest to me, would have understood the exact turmoil that was going on within me while I was experiencing pregnancy and even after I had my sweet baby girl. And I didn't have the language at the time to adequately express or articulate my feelings, my emotions, my thoughts, and the trauma that I was enduring. And trust me, this trauma manifested itself physically, mentally, emotionally, all the alleys. And it just wasn't a nice feeling. And, let me say here that because you feel this enormous level of shame, at least in the beginning, after a while, you take that shame and you begin to suppress it. And, I did that with the suppression, and then I repackaged it by going above and beyond, trying to prove myself. Because remember, I said this was like a walk of shame. And I tried to prove my worth and my value, to those who I disappointed. And of course, that's not healthy, but it was the only way I was able to, I would say, sort of cope and make sense of what's happening and dealing with all this inner turmoil while trying to be a mother to a child while being a child myself, so it was rough. And trust me, I was provided with resources during the pregnancy in terms of what would be, what to expect, the stages of the pregnancy, what's normal, what's abnormal, what to expect after I have the baby in terms of her development. So I had that, but there is no manual that would prepare you for reality. The reality of morning sickness. And I had that pretty bad. It was embarrassing. That's how bad it was.
And you still had to go to school.
Yes. Nothing prepares you for childbirth pain. There's nothing that compares to it. And nothing prepares you for the change in family dynamics. And there is a change. And nothing also prepares you for the stigma you receive from others as a teen mom. You know, people don't know the facts, but they will slap you with a general label. They will slap you with a general label and equate teen pregnancy to and conclude that that you were living a life of promiscuity. They would assume right away that one size fits all dress. And I remember an adult, saying that I was spoiled because I was a teen mom. In other words, what do you have to live for? What chances do you have? You basically blew it. You're spoiled. So what chances do you have? And naturally, those kind of comments would play a role in crushing even any semblance of the tiny bit of self-esteem and dignity I tried so hard to hold on to. The world was literally spinning, and I was just trying to find a way to keep things balanced, in my own teenage mind at the time. It also wasn't easy seeing persons who loved me separate and apart from my family visiting our home and leaving crying when they found out, when my parents would have told them that, I'm pregnant. So that literally broke my heart. And you see, many times we often hear about parents and how that affected them as parents, but we hardly find out how it actually impacted the teen mom. How did access how it actually impacted them. Some people have this indifference about them that says, oh, well, she went there. She thought that. So she did big people things, so let she deal with big people consequences, That's what you get for going there. And the biggest one is, let she go find work. That's the biggest one. They never encourage you. Well, most of them never encourage you in terms of, man, you could still get an education. No. The first thing out of the mouth is, let them go look work. So, and etc. And then there are those where they brought a ray of sunshine during that period where they extended a helping hand, a genuine helping hand, and instead of criticizing me. And they provided a safe space, like a safe listening ear, and they actually treated me as a teen mom most respectfully. So I felt like a human, in their presence. I appreciate that, and mostly tend to favor that, focus on the positive than the negative. Although the negative did play a role in building me as the woman I am today. Now, remember earlier I said I'll come back to why I said this experience almost led to the deaths of myself and my daughter. The pregnancy was an extremely rough one, extremely. And I ended up having to do emergency C-section. And I remember being surrounded by my family, the father of the baby, who was also a teen. He was 16 years old, just like me. And his mom, some church members, and other caring individuals. And I will never forget, it was a Wednesday night. And what happened during the frenzy, in terms of setting me up to do this emergency C-section, was that my mom, she sent updates to other church members, family members, because normally on a Wednesday night, all the churches throughout the region, they will have prayer services or Bible studies. And she would update them and let them know, let prayers go up on behalf of Claudia because she's about to go into emergency C-section. It doesn't look good. So please keep them in prayer. Keep both mother and daughter in prayer. And naturally, it wasn't until days after I had my baby I found out what exactly happened in the operation room, where my fever shot up to over 101 and plus. And the only thing that kept me alive was a stable pressure. And had it gone up by just 1, it would have meant death for me, severe brain damage and death. And because of the fever and my daughter being in distress, one nurse described even the amniotic fluid as like boiling water. So by the time my daughter was taken from me, she wasn't breathing and her heartbeat had stopped. So while they were working on me to stabilize me, they were also trying to resuscitate my daughter. So there were 3 doctors, including my gynecologist there, working on in that operating room. So you could imagine that the bounce back from delivery, it took some time. It took some time. And that happened late September. And I went to school January. And I was not ready. I was not prepared health-wise or otherwise. To my mind, it was too soon because I was still combating even fever from that ordeal. And I figured, well, I have no choice. This is what I need to do because I didn't want to be repeated a second time. Remember, I was in 4th form. So if I don't take this opportunity, I will be repeated a second time. That would definitely push me even further. That would be a further delay. So went back to school, and what happened is, I should say, I had to repeat because I could no longer return in the earlier stages because the morning sickness was just that bad, feeling extremely fatigued and tired. It was terrible. But to the credit of the Washington Archibald High School teachers assigned to me and my fellow peers at the time, they would send work home for me. So they would send the notes. I would get calls on the phone. They would give my parents, so once I see them, or my brother who was attending the same school as I, they would give him the information for me so that I can stay abreast of my schoolwork. The teachers would send certain activities that are graded or let me know what the dates of the tests are. And some of them were even willing that if I didn't want to do it with the students around, I can, do it in another room at the same time. They were so extremely supportive and encouraging. However, even though they did that, I still could not keep up because it was, like I said, the experience was that rough. So I had to stop. So I couldn't do the exams that would have promoted me to 5th form. So that's why I ended back up in 4th form. But I remember fondly while I was in the hospital that they would visit me.
Okay,
I
your
remember,
classmates and teachers. Okay.
Yes, yeah. I remember they would visit me. They visit me when right before the baby was born and right after. I remember in particular Ian Tavian.
Okay.
Yes, oh my gosh, she's such a darling. She actually would visit, like any chance Ian Tavian got, she would visit me at the hospital. And and I remember when she saw the baby, she was like, oh gosh, the baby looked just like me.
Yeah, I'm seeing it now. Like, I'm looking at your talk, and I'm like, it's
yeah,
true.
she looked just like me.
Yeah.
And we would laugh. We would laugh. And then she even, remember back in the day, we had our CD players, the Walkmans and those kind of things. I remember she loaning it to me without even me asking. She said, because, I don't want you to be lonely here. Because I was the only teen at the time in the maternity ward.
Yeah.
So it provided some solace, and I would never forget that. So that's one of my fondest memories. And another peer of mine also talked with her mom, and they sourced baby clothes for me as well. So I would never forget. I will never forget. And I don't ever forget the sincerity of others towards me, because for me, this is not just a journey. This is my truth. This is my testimony. And it's like I said, was a hard time recovering from the pregnancy. But what I would like to share here, one of the memories I would like to share when reality really hit me, was when I was doing my accounting homework. And I had my baby on my lap who was crying nonstop. And I had those balance sheets. And for the life of me, I'm trying to balance the balance sheets while my daughter here crying, and I'm trying, have my calculator here and trying to do the calculation. I can't concentrate because every minute I'm shaking, to sing her, to rock her, to comfort her, and she's crying nonstop. I get up and crying nonstop, and then it dawned on me that this is my reality. Trying to find that balance. And I had to end up relearn myself, my body, the way I think, because things change. It's like things just change. But little did I know that when I thought that things were falling apart, they were actually falling into place. Clock that. Clock that. So eventually, as time progressed, I was able to graduate from high school. I was able to attend CFBC and graduate from there. And, I continue on this academic journey with UWI. So I give thanks. Now, you asked me about Project Viola. So,
well, actually, I have a question about sources of support. So perhaps we can talk about it here. I want to just, I'm so appreciative of you and all that you are sharing. And I think as you are speaking, even when you said, like, sometimes the response to a teen is, okay, you was doing big people things, so go do big people things, as in you're on your own now. Yes. In ways that are extremely unhelpful because, even older people, what I was thinking about was older people, as in people who get pregnant at the right age also need the support that teens need, like no one is great if they're in a situation and they are sent out to fend for themselves. Even adults need help too when they're pregnant or after they've had a child. Yes. And also the fact that complications can happen at any age, right? So people will be like, oh, well, blah, 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 blah. But it's like, there are some, things that might are at greater risk of affecting certain groups of people at certain ages and things like that. But complications are possible with pregnancy at any time. Like, as you were talking, I was definitely thinking about the people who are at the right age but get pregnant under what other people might determine not ideal circumstances, like if they're not married or I don't know, if they have a relationship with somebody who people feel like they shouldn't have a relationship with, and how, like, some people I know, like, personally, they go above and beyond, you talked about that, to prove themselves to be like, everybody is counting against, me and my baby, and me and my baby. Yes. We are going to thrive.
You don't want to represent yourself as a failure.
Yeah.
And you do things that are not, I would say, not healthy.
Yeah, because I'm like, it's extreme. There are extreme responses. So sometimes it also can manifest in the pressure that you place on this child now. Yeah, the people pleasing that you try to do. It's just, because, like, have experience. So you talked about, the stigma that you experienced. And I know, even in addition to what you said, some teen mothers report feeling that stigma, especially in health spaces. So, like, when they go to the clinics, when they're ready to give birth, the lack of support that is sometimes there, and the judgment.
I can confirm that. I can confirm that, because I remember one experience I had with, before I had my baby. I was already in the hospital because I was experiencing complications. And my mom, she would always be there. Even if it's not visiting time, she will be there. And one nurse would ask her, what happened? Is your only child now? I was the audacity of the person. And my mom said, no. So she's not my only child, but while I'm here, I'm going to look after my child and make sure that she is handled properly. And I remember to even, sometimes the same person would drop down words, as we say, and make certain comments that you would wonder, like, coming from a healthcare provider. And then finally, now, when my baby was born, they teach you how to hold the baby, to wash the baby's hair. Well, that was a major ordeal for me, because my baby was 7 pounds plus and extremely tall, long in length. And I was smaller than I am now. And to hold her up, trying to hold her properly. And I had drips, and my daughter have drips, because remember what we went through. And the nurse, yeah, she's showing me how to think, but when I compare her actions to the others versus mine, it was alarming.
Yeah.
And it made me feel so helpless. So when my mom came on the scene, I tell her exactly what happened, and my mom encouraged me and said, "Don't worry, you're coming out here soon." However, say one, say two, there were also other health practitioners there who were very helpful, who made me feel so comfortable. I remember when one of the lab technicians, she arrived to take my blood, and when she peeped over at my daughter, she said, "Wow, your daughter is very pretty." She said, "You don't give up. Okay, you don't give up." And she was so encouraging.
Yeah.
So you have the good and you have the bad with it. But I can confirm that sometimes within the healthcare, yes.
Just a reminder that all patients deserve quality health care, quality service, to be treated with dignity. So you also, getting to the sources of support. You talked about some of the stigma that you experienced as a teen mother. What were the critical sources of support that I imagine would have countered some of that stigma, or just support in general? And what difference do you think those sources of support made for you and your journey?
That's a most thoughtful question. Thank you so much for asking that. My family, as number one. My family, and I'm just mindful of the time that we have, so I'm just gonna keep things brief. But keep in mind, I'm 16 years old. I am not working. I am preparing to go to school, and then I am back in school. My family were the ones to provide food, clothing, and shelter for my daughter and I, right? And other family members, of course. So I'm just going to lump everyone in the family together instead of just saying my parents, but my parents and others in the family. And they took care of expenses such as daycare, doctor appointments. They took care, since, like I said, I wasn't working. I also fondly remember the teachers at Kean High School, because that's where my mom used to teach.
Okay.
And of course, they knew about the pregnancy. And remember, I spoke about the morning sickness. Well, you could imagine nothing was really staying down. So what did stay down was Suppligen.
Okay.
And baked chicken.
Suppligen, boost them up. Suppligen, you can sponsor us, Make Closure brand ambassador.
Because that is what stayed down, and baked chicken.
Okay.
Those two things, Suppligen and baked chicken.
A liquid and a protein.
Yes. And my mother would have, keep them abreast of the situation. And one day they sponsored us a case. But more than one cases of Suppligen in different flavors. My favorite was the original.
Okay.
And they gave my mom these cases. So even though sometimes we would joke and call my daughter the Suppligen baby, because knowing what wasn't staying down and the size of the baby I had is the Suppligen and the baked chicken.
Okay.
So I give thanks. I give thanks for that. Even though she loved her chicken, I don't know about the Suppligen. Maybe she had enough.
Okay. Nods, vigorous nods here.
But she loved the chicken.
Okay.
In moderation, of course, for health reasons. In moderation. Okay. But I just considered myself blessed in that regard, because I was acutely aware that there were teen moms, even at that age, because I weren't the only teen mom at the school. And I was acutely aware that their situation is not like my situation, and I need to give thanks, because they are having to find, because some parents would put out their child, and they find themselves even in an even more vulnerable
I was going to say, which
state.
only exposes them to greater risks. Yeah.
And so I was giving thanks. I'm always a grateful person, but recognizing that I was giving thanks in terms of what they were providing. And I also learned when I finally started working, of course, those responsibilities now became my responsibilities. I realized the value of money. And
when you started working, you mean at what age? After you finished school?
After college.
Okay, after CFBC.
College.
Okay.
And I learned that I couldn't always fall back on them as a safety net. So even though you're becoming an adult, you became an adult overnight, it doesn't just end there. It sticks with you throughout because you're still trying to combat this trauma that you're feeling inside, and still trying to prove yourself even to your family that you're gonna make it. And I want to believe that it actually served as a driving force because I'm going to prove you wrong. So I looked at it that way. But yes, it prepared me for the real world. What I must say here is that they made sure that I didn't drop out of school.
Okay.
Because, like I said, many parents would tell their child, go along your way, or they make their life extra difficult, thinking that they are punishing them for the actions.
Like offer no help. Yeah. Or no support.
Exactly. And I, at this time, was big up Mrs. Williams, who was the former principal of the Washington Archibald High School. And because she was one of the persons who also welcomed me to return to school even at the age that I was. Because, around that time, you finish in school at 16. I was now making my way to 17 when I was going to school. So I remember that when I first returned to the compound, and she called me into her office before I go up to the fourth form block. And she sat me down and we had a conversation that I will basically summarize as this. Expect the talk, expect the glares, but keep your head up. And that was all I needed. And I returned to the fourth form block, of course, having to deal with new students because, well, persons like Ian Tavian and them, they're already gone to fifth form now. But the type of stigma and glares and negative feedback I thought I would have gotten because, I make news now around Washi. I didn't experience that, praise God. It was actually like a warm welcome back. It was like, I'm glad that you came back. And I was just shocked. So I had a wonderful first day back to school after the pregnancy and everything. Is like, show me pictures of the baby.
Aww.
Show me that. Yeah. Like, I remember a person like Leola. And so, like, they were all very kind and gracious towards me. And I'm just so great, so blessed that even now, as an adult, my parents, they're still my biggest supporters and encouragers. The other critical support for me was the church. I attended Molyneux Seventh-day Adventist Church, and they didn't cast me out. Now, of course, if I wanted to hold an office in the church, I would have to be rebaptized because, well, of the teen pregnancy. But I was definitely supported, and so was my daughter. And that meant the world to me because I loved attending church, and eventually in the process of time, I even became director of the Adventurers Club, which deals with the smaller children, and that taught me some leadership skills and gave me some confidence that I needed at the time, and some purpose, something to look forward to. Now, that was long ago, and I have since occupied, numerous offices in the church that I enjoyed doing, but that foundation I got from being director of the Adventurers Club at that time, it really helped lay that foundation up to now that's still benefiting me. So I found that atmosphere of encouragement, and there's no such thing as a perfect church, but if I were to choose them, if I had the opportunity, I will keep choosing them over and over because they made me feel comfortable enough to return and to keep attending, and it gave me hope about humanity. So this grace that was shown to me, not just by my home church, but by other congregations, not just within the Seventh-day Adventist community, but also other denominations, that further helped heal my broken heart. And it let me know that there are people rooting for me to rise. So that's the church bit of it. Now, come to the friendship. Let's be real. At this point in my life, during as a teen, we tend to value our friends' opinions more than the perspectives or opinions of our parents and adults. At least most of us do. So at the age, so at that age, the age that of having friends now there, I didn't care if they were good for me or they were bad for me. All I know is friendship at that time was of great importance for me. And with them, I felt like a teen again. You understand? I felt like a teen again and not an adult with motherly responsibilities. It's almost as if they helped me strike a balance. Hard to explain, but they enhanced my happiness. They enhanced it by providing even emotional support in their own teenage ways.
Yeah.
Lowered some of my stress levels, especially when I was able to vent to them and tell them what I heard this adult said about me and my child and my family and stuff like that. And they would know how to speak in a language that I can appreciate and understanding the pressures that I was under at the time as at school and everything. So they made the journey a bit softer for me in that regard. But Lord, it was hard when they could go to places and I couldn't because I had my motherly responsibilities. And as my mother sat me down and told me, I shall not be gallivanting up and down when I have child. Okay, so you don't know. Because I still have to learn the seriousness of the situation. So not that they didn't allow me at times to go out, but I couldn't just take them for granted like that. A balance was struck right there where I had to say, listen, this is serious and my baby is not a dolly. I took that serious. Here comes Project Viola. I will never forget. One day, it happened during a school day. I was in class, and then out of the blue, I was informed that someone from Gender Affairs would like to speak to me. But then I said, okay, all right. I didn't know what it was about, but I'm anxious because I was like, this is shameful, but it wasn't until that point I even knew we had a gender affairs, because which is natural at that age. So I remember we were in an empty classroom, and it wasn't just me. There were other teen moms there who already had their baby and who was still attending school while pregnant. And even though I was apprehensive, I remember when I walked into the room and met a woman whose smile made me feel as if she was just looking at me and not my sin. She actually looked at me like with joy. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but she saw me. And that's something as teen moms we often do not get, because we are seen again by the label that is on us, the sin. And she had this warmth about her that automatically made me feel safe. And her name is Mrs. Celia Christopher, Leola's mommy, and who I dare say is one of Gender Affairs' greatest champions ever. And little did I know that meeting that day would have changed the trajectory of my life, would have changed my life for the better. And I will explain. She used that opportunity to let us know about Project Viola, what it was, and the purpose of Project Viola, which is basically providing it's like a support group for teen mothers and giving them the tools and resources needed to make their life better, especially for not only for their sake, but the sake of their child, and to also educate us about sex and safe sex practices and things like that, which I'll get into more of. But they basically provided like a nurturing atmosphere. And this would take place during the summertime. So as soon as school closed, during the summertime, we knew to head up there by, what's the name of that road? Like before you reach TDC Home and Building Depot, they'll be right there on the corner next to Carry Wellness. The industrial,
the training, what a white building?
Yes.
What used to be a training center,
yes.
I think. Okay.
Yes, that was our meeting place.
Okay.
And Mrs. Christopher is the one who actually secured that building, not just for the purposes of us, but like I said, she was a champion for women issues as well. And during the summer, we will have like self-development initiatives. They will bring in different persons to speak to us who may have been like a teen mom. Like we had Ambassador Rosalind Hazel. We had persons like who, even if you weren't a teen mom, but could help us in different ways to build our self-esteem. You had like Miss Sharon Rattenmack. We had Nurse Christine Watley. We had, listen, I feel we had a lot. We had ample sources, more than enough resources and the support to show us that, listen, they're on our side. And we will learn how to do makeup, we will learn how to sew, learn how to cook, and those kind of things. And I was able to meet other teen moms from the different high schools in that setting as well. But what I want to really any Toastmasters listen to me and they're hearing I owe them a lot of money. I'm not active right now, but I know better than this.
When you come back, they're gonna say, "Here's your invoice."
I know better than this. But they would ask us what we would like to become when we grow up. And for me, I knew from small I wanted to be a lawyer. And Mrs. Christopher, she was able to get me a stint working during the summer now at the High Court, at the Sinkis High Court, specifically the Magistrate Department. And there I was able to, form bonds with persons who actually meant they wanted to see me succeed. And I was able to learn more about the law and everything like that. And one thing about Mrs. Christopher, we had something called the 10 rules, which I call the 10 commandments of Mrs. Christopher. And one of them, she would always say, always arrive on time. Believe in yourself, be confident. And as Miss Christopher loved to say, people will always talk, ignore them. And I could see her head. I could see her head going. And Mrs. Christopher is one of those ladies who, when she wants something, she means she's going to get it for her girls, So she would arrange even different speaking engagements. I remember when I became president of the same club in 2010, where I did one of my first speeches in relation to a toast in her honor. There's so many stories I can give. We don't have the time to get into it, but just to say that Project Viola, I am so grateful, because if it wasn't for, I kid you not, if it wasn't for Project Viola, I really don't think I might have even been having this conversation with you right now. I'm serious, because they put me onto different folks. For example, Sniper, remember? He's the one, Mrs. Christopher is the one who said, listen, I spoke to Jacqueline and Azilla Clark Jacqueline Bryant and Azilla Clark from Sniper. And I was like, Sniper? She was like, think it's National Youth Parliament. You have a skill. You have a talent. I believe in you. You don't believe in yourself? Well, I believe in you. You're joining. I didn't have a choice. But I am so glad that I didn't have a choice, because I met awesome folks. And it exposed me to persons and who actually, again, helped me mature along this journey. So I give thanks to them. And for the other teen moms, when it comes to the Project Viola group, the expression misery loves company. For me, it wasn't like that at all. We weren't there and be like, poor me. Yeah. No, it was not like that. It was more like, I got the sense that, and recognized that all of us had one desire. And that desire was that we wanted to believe that life still have something for us to do. You understand? So we had a purpose there, not to wallow in what already went and we cannot change it. But how do we move forward? And Project Viola was one of the main catalysts for that launch. So I really give thanks for that. So that's just a summary of my.
I mean, I love what you kind of not ended, but what tied everything together there, because there are lots of things that humans do that bring them to defining moments like
Yes.
those, like getting pregnant in your teens. It's just one of those things. So there's need for people to be supported through all their decisions, through all their phases in life.
And
So
Roma, not
yeah.
to cut you off, but I definitely have to say this with the support group, in terms of support I received. It's amazing, that same workplace that I was sent to when I left college, that is where I ended up working to this day. So I went from magistrate department to working at the High Court itself, and it was because of this initiative, and I met wonderful individuals like Miss Richards, Desmond Richards, who to this day continue to support me. I've met even Chus Kanaipa and Toastmasters, wonderful persons like Pauline, Kylene. There are so many names I can call.
Too numerous to mention.
Yeah, but I really give thanks for these folks in my life.
Okay.
Really do.
So, you said that, in Project Viola, one of the things that you did learn about was sex and safer sex methods, contraception, and so
Yes.
on. And we have about 5-ish more minutes. The time flies.
Yes, yes.
So we'll have to get through these really quickly.
No problem.
Do you think there's enough conversation about sex and contraception?
I think the Federation is doing the best that they can. And it's only natural that we will experience some challenges, some obstacles. And some of those obstacles... So there are, just to answer this quickly, there are methods being in place, and there are strategies that are being utilized right now. But the type of effect and this is just from my point of view, to my mind, but the type of effect that they would like to have is not there yet. Not necessarily because of the fault of those initiatives, but I find sometimes as a Caribbean people, we have this stigma when it comes to speaking about sex. It's like being a teen mom.
We don't. Or we do it in not often productive,
right,
or accurate,
right,
or honest
exactly.
ways.
It's like taboo.
Yeah.
It's like as a teen mom, when I was a teen mom, it's like the word sex was looked at as you did a dirty thing.
So
Apparently, yes, you say yes. You have to say it.
You had. You're having
yes. It was like there's some taboo surrounding sex, and again, as Christian, we preach that you should really have it during marriage, which I agree with, honestly. But okay, things do happen. So Project Viola now allowed these individuals to even show us how to put on a condom. The different STDs you can get from if you don't, and how to prevent maybe even having another baby, how in terms of practicing safe sex or just being abstaining, and taught us also, I should say this, things that to protect our mental health.
Okay.
But in terms of the Federation's efforts, I think they're doing a great job. There's room for improvement, but it's really the mindset now. How can we other people truly accept that this is we have these situations going on, there's a root to it? Can we be transparent and accountable and, forge a way through so that things can be curbed? Because at the end of the day, we all have a choice to make.
Okay. And finally, what advice would you give to, first, adults of teen mothers or teen parents, and to teen parents, specifically moms, teen dads too, teen moms?
Yeah,
I'm
glad
asking
you mentioned about teen dads.
I'm asking you as a teen mom. I'll have to have a conversation, a separate conversation with a teen father to talk about their experience, because truly, they are often forgotten in the conversation.
Yes.
Yeah. So what advice would
struggles.
What advice would you give to adults of teen moms and teen moms themselves?
Okay, so give yourself some grace. You did the best that you could, and life tend to happen. But please, whatever you do, treat your teen with forgiveness, with love, understanding, and patience, and reinforce in them that though this situation may delay them, it would not deny them from having a great future. And that, yes, I know it's easier said than done. And they too, the parents, go through a similar walk of shame and ridicule, but don't allow that those negativity to permeate you and cause you to ill-treat your child. Like I said, let them go look work or boot them out from home. That would just make matters worse. So instead of building resentment, help build resilience and their mental and emotional well-being. Yes. Now, as for the teen moms in particular, there are many lessons that I had to learn, and it didn't happen overnight. And one of those lessons that I wish to share with the teen moms in terms of advice, trust the process. Trust the process. It will get better, and time is on your side. Trust me, time is on your side. You don't need to prove anything to anybody, only to yourself. So believe in yourself. But stay humble and stay respectful. Be open to opportunities, because opportunities will come your way that will help you develop, especially holistically. And if you need therapy, have no shame, because this will help you process the trauma and process the pain. So don't be afraid to ask for help. Be mindful of the choices you make, because, and I think that's enough said with that. And always be grateful, always. And learn to pivot, because you might have your plans, but life have a funny way of thwarting them. So learn to be flexible.
Man plan and God laugh.
Got that right. And last but not least, build a relationship with Jesus Christ for yourself. Commit to him, because he promises a brighter tomorrow, and I'm testimony of that. And he literally has a purpose for your life and the pain that you have to endure. Do you want me to give some parting words at this time, since it's done?
Yeah, sure, Sister Claudia.
That's right, Sister Roma. One of my favorite quotes, and this is what I would like to leave the audience with, is by Ellen G. White. And she says, remember that you will never reach a higher standard than you yourself set. Then set your mark high, and step by step, though it be by painful effort, self-denial and sacrifice, ascend the whole length of the ladder of progress. And those are my parting words.
Thank you. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show to talk about what can be a very difficult topic.
Yes.
Although it is a very real story for many.
Yes.
You know, I'm sure, I wouldn't say every family, but I'm sure every family has had a teen mom or knows a family that has had a teen mom. I think I heard that my grandmother's mother had her when she was like 13 or something like that, and I think it was multiple youth pregnancies too. So it was like, this reality is nothing new, particularly for this part of the world. And there are ways that we can, address that reality. But it is also important to support the people who experience that reality. So not just to wish it was different, to actively work towards it being different. And one of the ways that we can work towards creating that different reality is by supporting people who are currently teen moms, and continuing to support people who were teen moms, because moms, parents in general just need support no matter the age that they are
And it takes
at.
a while for the trauma
To,
sometimes even into adulthood. So
it's still, because that shame, that stigma, all of those things are still there, especially if you're not able and given this space to process it as a teen. Because if everybody's like, well, you was doing big people things, nobody's asking you, how are you feeling? How are you coping? What do you need? How can we support? What can we remove off your plate to make this journey easier for you? So this is really a really strong appeal, you know, to everyone.
Indeed.
Everybody to support teen moms, which isn't to say we're glad. We're not dying while we're talking about here. So don't hear it that way. But we support everybody's. We support everybody's well-being, and we will do whatever we need to do to ensure everybody's well-being. comes off my soapbox. So there we have tonight's episode of Pleasure Pulse. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I've enjoyed your company.
Thank you for having us.
In the background, of course. And we maybe will have another version of this conversation.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I'll bring my extroverted personality for this one.
I mean, this one was good.
Yes, okay.
This one was great. I couldn't tell that. Anyways,
amen.
Being multifaceted. So thank you all for joining us for another episode of Pleasure Pulse. As usual, Pleasure Pulse is a place where no questions or topics are too big or too small. I hope that you learn something. I hope that you are able to take the conversation to your families, to your communities, to your friends, and talk about what it might have meant if you were a teen mom or what it might mean to a teen mom, and show some grace to yourself and to the people in your space. So I will say good night here. Have a pleasurable evening. Bye.